Tag TV brings you daily news bulletin from India. Breaking news and views from India.
You're watching South Asia Newsline and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Tuesday, the 25th of March. India slams Pakistan at UNSC, demands vacation of Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan continues to arrest Baloch leaders as police crackdowns on protesters. And UN warns 4 million Afghan girls could lose education by 2030. And now for all the details. India strongly rebuked Pakistan on Tuesday after a close aide of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif raised the Kashmir issue during a UNSC debate. India firmly stated that Islamabad must vacate Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to resolve the dispute. A report.
India on Tuesday slammed Pakistan for its reference to the Jammu and Kashmir issue during a United Nations Security Council debate on peacekeeping reforms. India's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Parvataneni Harish, called Pakistan's remarks unwarranted and reaffirmed India's position that Jammu and Kashmir was, is and will always remain an integral part of India. Addressing the UNSC, Harish rejected Pakistan's repeated claims and emphasized that such references neither validate Pakistan's position nor justify its state-sponsored cross-border terrorism. He further underscored that Pakistan continues to occupy parts of Jammu and Kashmir illegally and demanded that Islamabad must vacate the territory. We advise Pakistan not to attempt to divert the attention of this forum to further its parochial and divisive agenda. India will refrain from exercising a more elaborate right of reply, the Indian envoy added. Harish's remarks came in response to comments by Syed Tariq Fatemi, Special Assistant to the Pakistani Prime Minister, who brought up the Kashmir issue during the UNSC debate. Fatemi cited the presence of the United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan, arguing that the Kashmir dispute remains on the Security Council's agenda and requires a just and final settlement in line with Council resolutions to resolve the issue. India had recently rebuked Pakistan on a similar note during a UN Human Rights Council session in Geneva, where Indian envoy Kshitij Tyagi condemned Pakistan's allegations of human rights violations in Jammu and Kashmir as baseless and malicious. India has consistently maintained that it seeks peaceful and normal relations with Pakistan, but has insisted that the onus lies with Islamabad to create an atmosphere free from terrorism and hostility to enable meaningful dialogue.
President, India is compelled to note that the delegate of Pakistan has yet again resorted to unwarranted remarks on the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Such repeated references neither validate their illegal claims nor justify their state-sponsored cross-border terrorism. Jammu and Kashmir was, is, and will always be an integral part of India. Pakistan continues to illegally occupy the territory of Jammu and Kashmir, which it must vacate. We would advise Pakistan not to try to divert the attention of this forum to drive their parochial and divisive agenda. India will refrain from exercising a more elaborate right of reply.
Leading Baloch human rights body Baloch Yakjehti Committee, Central leader Sami Din and Deputy Organizer Lala Wahab were arrested on Monday as police cracked down on their protest in Karachi. The BYC in a statement said that it will not be silenced by Pakistan's crackdown and called the action an act of state terrorism by the fascist Pakistani regime to crush all voices demanding justice and human rights. It added that the abduction-style arrest of human rights defenders are part of Pakistan's long-standing genocidal policy against the Baloch people, which is marked by enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings and mass repression. It further highlighted that the use of colonial-era laws to criminalize dissent is a desperate attempt to whitewash state barbarism. The Pakistani state, built on the foundation of militarized oppression, continues to treat Baloch activists and our leadership. The arrests have sparked wider concerns regarding the Pakistani authorities' handling of dissent in Balochistan. Moving on, the education system in POJK is facing a dual crisis, with government schools plagued by inefficiencies while private institutions exploit parents through inflated fees. We have a report.
In Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the education sector is grappling with significant challenges. Government institutions in the region are burdened by outdated curricula and widespread inefficiencies, prompting an increasing number of parents to turn to private institutions in search of better educational opportunities for their children.
सरकारी तालीमी इदारों की निस्बत लोग प्राइवेट तालीमी इदारों को तरजीह देते हैं। उसकी बुनियादी वजह यह है कि एक तो रियासत जम्मू कश्मीर या पाकिस्तान के अंदर यकसान निसाब तालीम का ना होना है। प्राइवेट तालीमी इदारों के अंदर ऑक्सफोर्ड समेत दीगर जो है वो किताबें भी पढ़ाई जाती हैं, जबकि सरकारी तालीमी इदारों के अंदर एक ही निसाब जो है पढ़ाया जाता है, जिससे लोग जो है और सरकारी इदारों के अंदर चूँकि सिफारिश कल्चर है, उस सिफारिश कल्चर ने सरकारी इदारों को तबाह करके रखा हुआ है।
While private institutions are favored for their better education, they have also come under growing scrutiny for their business practices. Most of these schools are prioritizing profit over the well-being of students, with reports of inflated fees, mandatory purchases of overpriced textbooks and stationery, and a lack of transparency in their operations.
प्राइवेट तालीमी इदारा जो है वो माफिया बन चुका है। माफिया वो इस तरह बन चुका है कि मोस्टली प्राइवेट तालीमी इदारे जो हैं उन्होंने अपनी कापियाँ अपना निसाब स्कूल के अंदर रख के जो 100 रुपये की कापी है वो 200 रुपये में बेचते हैं और बच्चे को और वालिदैन को फोर्स करते हैं कि जाके वो कापी आपने स्कूल के अंदर से लेनी है, यूनिफॉर्म भी स्कूल के अंदर से लेनी है, हर चीज़ स्टेशनरी तक स्कूलों के अंदर रखी हुई है और वो माफिया बन के दोनों हाथों से जो है वो वालिदैन को लूट रहा है।
As the education system in POJK continues to struggle, parents are caught between the decline of government schools and the exploitative practices of private institutions, leaving many questioning the future of their children's education.
Moving on, the United Nations has warned that by 2030, 4 million girls in Afghanistan will be deprived of education due to the ban on their studies by the Taliban and other challenges. Spokesperson for the UN, Stephen Dujarric, however, expressed hope on Monday that progress will be made to lift the ban on studies of Afghan girls and women. This comes as the UNICEF in its recent report stated that in the upcoming academic year, 4 lakh girls will be excluded from the educational system, further worsening the situation. The report highlights that the number of girls missing secondary education has now risen to 2.2 million, marking a significant increase in the lack of access to education for girls. Despite international pressure, the Taliban has not yet reopened schools for girls above the 6th grade. Expressing concern over credible reports of heightened Islamist extremism, Bangladesh Army Chief General Waqar-uz-Zaman on Monday told an assembly of officers and troops in Dhaka that any move by such forces would be dealt with severely. Addressing an event, General Zaman said he feared that widespread disturbance might be set off by the Islamist forces over the next 1 month or so, even as he revealed that an American Senator, Gary Peters, who met him last week, had shared his concern over the sudden and rapid growth of Islamist extremism over the last 8 months. Stressing that the army's ultimate victory would be the successful conduct of fair elections, followed by a return to the cantonment, General Zaman said that his soldiers were engaged in a battle with no weapons and rely on ethics and wisdom. He cautioned the soldiers to not be swayed by any provocation. The UK on Monday imposed sanctions on 3 former senior Sri Lankan military commanders and 1 former Tamil Tiger rebel commander over human rights violations during the civil war that ended in 2009. Karuna Amman, a former commander in the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Ilam, was also sanctioned. Amman split from the LTT before the war ended and later led a paramilitary group working for the Sri Lankan army. In a statement, British Foreign Minister David Lammy said that the UK government is committed to human rights in Sri Lanka, including seeking accountability for human rights violations and abuses which took place during the civil war and which continue to have an impact on communities today. The UN estimates that 80,000 to 1 lakh people died in the 26-year war between government forces and Tamil separatists. Sri Lanka's army and security forces have been accused of war crimes, including extrajudicial killings, torture and sexual violence, and of abductions and torture long after the end of the war. A UN panel in 2011 found credible allegations of serious violations by both sides, some of which would amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Sri Lanka has always denied such allegations but refused to cooperate with international investigators. Nepal is set to invite state heads and foreign ministers from various nations for its maiden multi-stakeholder dialogue summit, Sagarmatha Samvad, dedicated to addressing climate change and its associated challenges. Talking to media on Monday, Nepal's Foreign Secretary Amrit Bahadur Rai said invitations have been extended to heads of government, foreign ministers and ministers for forest and the environment. Rai further mentioned that while Nepal has limited capacity to host a large number of top leaders, but the forum expects robust participation from foreign ministers and UN representatives. However, the Nepal government has neither confirmed nor denied whether Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be attending the event. Earlier reports indicated that Nepal's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is preparing to invite Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in the high-profile dialogue. The Kathmandu Post reported that Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli is likely to extend a formal invitation to PM Modi during their anticipated meeting at the 6th BIMSTEC Summit in Thailand, scheduled from April 2 to 4. Sources suggest that Nepal has requested a bilateral meeting with the Indian side, where the invitation may be formally conveyed. If Modi's attendance is confirmed, this would mark his 6th visit to Nepal and underscore India's commitment to supporting climate action in the vulnerable Himalayan region.
We are expecting head of government or head of state and foreign ministers and forest ministers. So those are the foreign dignitaries that we've sent our invitations. And we are in constant dialogue with our the contact points or interlocutors in different capitals and different stations, and we will of course reveal the list of dignitaries, foreign dignitaries, on due course of time.
That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.
Tag TV brings you daily news bulletin from India. Breaking news and views from India.